Yo, what's up, YouTube? What is up? What's happening? All right, so this audio is working. I fucking hope. Okay, let me just plug this in over here. Let's get this fucking laptop charged because that shit ain't gonna die on me today. All right, so hopefully, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't. I don't think the audio is working. I don't know. But my lips just look dry for a second, so I have to fix that. All right. Yeah, man. Got this water down. Gonna get this set up and introduce y'all to another episode of the Meathead on the Mic podcast. You know what time it is. You know what time we're on. So let's get it. All right. Yo, what's up, people? What's happening? Welcome to the episode of the Meathead on the Mic podcast. It's your boy, IFBB PRO Matt Brutale. Today we're going to be talking about carbs. All right. Specifically, the two types of carbs, high glycemic and low glycemic carbs. All right. So I'm going to basically explain to you what they are, what they do, and why you should be eating them. Okay. And also, we're going to dismantle some of the stigmas that are tied with, potatoes and rice or bread and why you should or shouldn't eat them, including pasta. All right. So stick around, stay tuned. That's what we'll be talking about today. All right. So I'm just going to put the title for today's chat over here so we know what we're talking about on Instagram. And then we're going to dive into this podcast without wasting any time in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Yo, what's good, Meatheads? Hope you're having an amazing day, and welcome to another episode of the Meathead on the Mic podcast. It's your returning champion, IFBB Pro Matt Brutale, coming at you with another topic. And today, I'll be speaking some facts to you, some facts regarding potatoes, rice, pasta, bread, all those things, those carbs. Those things are carbs, right? We're going to be breaking down some misconceptions, and I'm also going to be explaining to you how to properly consume them, or at least what you should be doing with carbs. All right. And also I'll give you a little tip at the end that will help you with bloating. If you struggle with bloating and you think that carbs are responsible for you bloating, I've got some news for you because today we'll be speaking some facts. But before we dive into this one today, I want to remind you that if you are getting value from this podcast, if you ever, really, want to share this information, all right, to a friend, you can either tag somebody in the live stream that you're watching this on, whether you're on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube, or you can share this out as the podcast will be recorded. All right. So let me know if you're getting value, share it out to a friend. I appreciate that. All right. So if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the sub too. You know what time it is. Let's get into it. All right. So bloating after eating potatoes. That's the title of today's podcast episode. All right. So if you get bloated every single time you eat potatoes, rice, bread, pasta, this is the episode for you. Okay. People think that, carbs are bad for you. Carbs make you fat. Carbs make you bloat, right? Absolutely fucking wrong. It's wrong, right? Aside from protein, in my opinion, carbs are like the most important macronutrient, in my opinion, like outside of protein, okay? Because protein builds the muscle, and the more muscle you have, the more fat you can burn just in a rested state, so it's goated. Protein is the best, but carbs is essentially, in my opinion, all right, the most important macronutrient that isn't protein. Okay, and here's why I think that. Again, we know protein builds muscle, but we don't know, what we don't know is that carbs give us the energy to build the muscle, like the energy to go to the gym to build muscle. Okay, and I'm going to explain. I'm going to give you guys and girls a little bit of an analogy here. It's like a car. Think of a car, all right? In this case, the vehicle, the car, is protein. Okay, so let's say we want to go from point A to point B. Point A, which is, you're not in the gym, or at least you're too tired to go to the gym. You don't have the energy to go to the gym and train. That's point A. And point B is having enough energy to go to the gym and train hard enough so that you can actually tear your muscle fibers and build muscle. Okay, so point A, being too tired to enter the gym or being too tired to go all out in the gym. And point B is being able to go all out and build the physique that you want in the gym. All right, and energy is the main thing that we're focusing on here. Okay, because carbs are energy. All right, so you get into this car. This car is protein. It takes you from point A to point B because the more muscle you're able to put on, the more, I guess, in a sense, skeletal tissue that you put on your body, the more fat you can burn. But we're talking about energy here. Okay, so we hop inside this vehicle, we start the car, and we realize there's no gas. So you're eating enough protein, right? Which is 1 to 1.25 grams per pound of body weight. But you don't have the energy to train in the gym. What's going on? So you hop into the car, and it's like starting the car and realizing there's no gas. So you've got the vehicle, the protein, but you're in the vehicle, and the vehicle has no gas, has no energy. Okay, you can't do anything with the protein that you were consuming. All right, so before we begin our journey from point A to point B, we make a pit stop at the gas station using our last mile worth of gas we have left. All right, so when we arrive at the gas station, we refill our tank with gas, as we do with vehicles, right? In this case, the protein, we've been consuming the protein so we can build the muscle, but we don't have the energy to train hard enough to build the muscle because we lack the carbs, okay? And in this case, the fuel, the gas, is carbohydrates, okay? The fuel that you need to go from point A to point B, point A being tired or eating enough protein but not putting on muscle in the gym, to go from there to a point where you can go to the gym, build muscle because your protein's actually repairing something now because you're actually training hard enough to tear the muscle fibers because you've got the energy that carbs give you to do that. Okay, so in this case, fuel is the carbohydrate. Now that we have enough gas, enough fuel to travel from point A to point B, we can use the car to take us exactly to where we need to be, point B, right? So, but as soon as we get there, as soon as we get to point B, so as soon as your workout is done, as soon as we get to point B, we must keep our eyes on the fuel gauge to make sure we always remain topped up so we never get stranded and, and we can essentially drive to any location we desire, essentially having energy throughout the rest of your day after the gym. Okay? So after you reach point B and you're finished training, you got enough fuel, you're able to crush it, your body's able to put on enough muscle tissue. Okay? Now you've got to make sure that you have enough energy, enough fuel, enough carbs for the rest of your day to do whatever you desire, whether it's work, whether it's whatever it is. Okay, so again, the exact same thing happens with our bodies, with vehicles, with that analogy. And if that makes sense, just sit there and understand that. It's the same thing. We can't get from point A to point B with your physique without, if you don't have carbs, just know you're not moving anywhere. It's a vehicle without gas. You could be eating enough protein, you could be in a caloric deficit, and you will be losing weight, right? But the thing is this, you won't be building muscle because you won't have the energy to go into the gym and train hard enough to actually put on tissue, muscle tissue, skeletal muscle tissue, right? So you'll need the energy that carbs provides, all right? Like we eat enough protein, but wonder why we're not pumped and we're always feeling tired in the gym. It's because of a lack of carbs. Right? So eating enough protein isn't going to give you the energy to go and crush it in the gym. It's just, think of protein as like a building block. Okay? The bricks themselves are that's the protein. But what allows you to build the house, essentially, is the blueprint. Like you know where to put the bricks, all right? So the brick stack, the brick stack, the brick stack, now you have a house. Okay, but if you just have a whole bunch of bricks and you don't lay them anywhere, you're not going to have a house. The blueprint in that metaphor or that analogy would be the carbs. Okay, because carbs give you the energy. They give you the energy to make something of the protein that you're consuming. Okay? Carbs don't make you fat. I just have to get that out the way. I talked about it a little bit at the start of this episode. Carbs do not make you fat. That's something weirdos say to trick you into their keto cult or whatever, and it's not true. And essentially keto just works in a way where they replace carbs with fats and allow your body to use fats as the main energy source. I mean, your body still uses fats as an energy source, but when you're in a keto diet, you're using ketos mainly as your energy source, which honestly is not the best thing to do. I don't recommend it. I'm not a fan of it, and none of my clients will ever do it. They've never done it. I've never done it. It's crap. Don't do that shit. All right. And it's also pretty much the same thing as how vegans will say you'll die of cancer tonight if you eat meat, which is not true. And we know that meat has so many other benefits, essential amino acids, complete proteins, things of that sort, right? So we're just going to throw that to the side. Misconceptions off on the side, okay? A balance of both high and low glycemic carbs, which I'm going to explain right now, actually, or they're better known as simple or complex carbs. I don't know if you've learned about that in school, but I'm going to be your teacher today. All right, so you got to get a mix of these two types of carbs that I'm going to be talking about in order to truly, we'll say, maximize the benefit of, what carbs can do for you. And we can jump into the science and talk about glycogen and things like that right? Glycogen is essentially your carbs. Once you consume carbs, they can convert into two things: fats or glycogen. Okay, your carbs will convert into fats if you have enough glycogen and you're not depleting it. So glycogen is actually more accurately the fuel that I was talking about earlier on when I was giving you the vehicle metaphor or analogy, whatever you want to call it. Glycogen is what allows you to get that pump. You know, when your skin starts to, tighten up and your muscle starts to swell up. Glycogen. You get glycogen from carbs. But every single time you finish your workout, you deplete your glycogen stores, assuming you train hard enough. And when you deplete your glycogen stores, we call that getting flat in the bodybuilding world. Okay? And getting flat just means your muscles appear thinner. There's less vascularity, things like that, because there's less, carbohydrates, sugar, or we'll say glucose in the muscle or glycogen. Okay? But the thing is, if you have too much glycogen, like say if you're not training at all, you don't deplete your glycogen stores, and you still decide to consume carbs, even if the carbs are not a ridiculous amount of carbs, if you did not we'll say deplete your glycogen storages, what you're going to find is that carb is going to turn into fat, because carbs just turn into energy, and fat is an energy source. Glycogen is an energy source, but glycogen is the favorable energy source because that's what gives us the pump. And of course, who wants to put on fat? Everyone wants to put on muscle, right? So we're going to be breaking that down. Okay, we know that carbs can turn into fat or glycogen. We want fat to turn into glycogen, so how do we do that? We want carbs to turn into glycogen, so how do we do that? We make sure that we train very hard so that our body actually uses and absorbs the carbs instead of storing it away as fat, because it'll do that. It's like if you're filling up the gas tank, just to go back to that analogy, and the gas, the fuel, is carbohydrates. It's filling up, it's filling up, it's filling up. It reaches the cap. It's full. Anything that spills out of that hole, that is gas, that is fuel, is considered fat, right? It's excess. Your body's going to store that energy as fat. Does that make sense? So fill up your tank, use the gas, fill up the tank again, instead of overfilling it by not training. You have to deplete your glycogen storage so your body can actually utilize the carbs. All right? I know that makes sense. I'm not going to ask you this time. All right, so let's talk about simple and complex carbs. Okay, simple carbs are essentially white. These are, they get demonized. Simple carbs are, you all know what they are. You hate them. You think they make you fat. You think they bloat you and all this and that and all this crap. But this is what simple carbs are. Simple carbs are white rice, bread, white or yellow fleshed potatoes. Okay, donuts, sweets, anything that's high in starch or processed sugars. Those are simple carbs. And although processed foods are pretty much, I won't say there's a such thing as a bad food. You don't really want to be continuously consuming, simple carbs. But there's a function for simple carbs, and I will actually explain to you what that function is and how I actually use it as a professional bodybuilder. Okay, so we just talked about simple carbs. Let's talk about complex carbs, and then we're going to dive into how to use them. So complex carbs, okay? These are the carbs that you probably don't even know are carbs. You probably think they're just fucking vegetables and alternatives and whole foods. That's like where it goes in your brain when you hear what I'm about to say. So complex carbs, which are still carbohydrates, are whole grain bread, sweet potato as opposed to white and yellow fleshed potato, oats, right? Beans, fruits, etc. Basically carbohydrates that are high in fiber. Okay? Those are complex carbs. And the difference between a simple carb and a complex carb, they're still carbs, but it's the way that it sort of, I'll say, charges your body or fuels your tank that is a little bit different. Okay, so for high glycemic or simple carbs, it immediately spikes your blood sugar and gives you an immediate sugar high, whereas low glycemic carbs, okay, complex carbs, maintain the insulin spike and energy level spike and allow you to stabilize your energy levels instead of spiking and crashing just as simple carbs do. So if you remember being a kid and drinking soda at a birthday party and you had like 1, 2, 3 cans and now you're high as fuck, running up and down, your heart's about to beat through your chest, all this and that, right? And then about an hour and a half later, 2 hours later, you're stone cold Steve Austin, knocked the fuck out, just laying face down on the pavement. That's a sugar rush. And simple carbs are notorious for giving you that sugar rush. Okay, is there a benefit to this? If you're doing this honestly, continuously, and you're not like training, then no, there's nothing for that. Like there's no benefit there. But Is there a benefit for this if you want to build muscle, if you want to burn fat? Absolutely. Let's think of pre-workout. Isn't that the same thing with caffeine? You get a spike of energy and then you crash. And in that spike of energy, that time where your energy is at its peak, you have the ability to train as hard as you possibly fucking can at the gym. And you can utilize not only pre-workout, but carbs to get that effect, and also pump in glycogen as fast as possible. So it's essentially like you're training. If you've got a Tesla, you're flooring it while you're charging your battery, or you're flooring it in the car while putting in gas, so that gas level stays full, okay, as you're going all the way in and killing it and crushing it, as you're redlining, as you're speeding down the fucking freeway, right? But nothing's overspilling because you're actually using the glycogen. Does that make sense? So simple carbs are immediately going to spike your insulin levels, give you that rush, okay? And they're going to make that hard workout a little bit easier to do. And afterwards, you're still going to feel like you're going to have a little bit more energy because of the amount of glycogen that has been restored, especially if you do it pre-workout, which is why, like for me, and this is a trick that I use. Right before I train, I would have 100 grams of carbs, either through 2 Pop-Tarts and two Pop-Tart pieces or whatever, so 1 package, and 2 Rice Krispies, which when you add them up, come up to just shy of or a little bit over 100 grams of carbs. And they're processed foods. Honestly, people look at that shit and say it's unhealthy. Honestly, when I buy that shit at the grocery store, and I'd be like, my tank top, whatever, people are like, this guy's jacked. What the fuck is he eating kid snacks for? Right? Or cereal even would be good for it, right? But they don't know. I'm manipulating these simple carbs, these processed sugars, to spike my insulin, spike my sugar levels, and also putting glycogen right before I hit the gym so I can go balls to the wall and push harder than I've ever pushed before and still maintain the glycogen levels and my energy levels, right? Just for that short burst, that workout, that little sugar high, okay? But what happens after that if you don't, consume an adequate amount of carbs? What happens after that is your insulin levels will come down, your energy levels will come down, you'll feel sluggish, and it's just the end of a sugar high. Just as I mentioned earlier on with you being face down on the pavement as a kid after drinking and eating candy, drinking soda and eating candy at a birthday party, right? So how do we mitigate that? How do we make sure we don't crash? Well, the answer is right there. It's complex, but it's not complex. I'm just using it as a pun here. It's complex carbs, actually. I hope you guys got that one there. If y'all got it, laugh with me. If you didn't, then fuck off, whatever, it doesn't matter. All right, so complex carbs. You got to factor in complex carbs. So complex carbs, they don't give that effect where as soon as you eat them, your insulin levels spike to the roof and your energy levels are through the roof and you're fucking like on this high. Complex carbs more so maintain your insulin levels and allow for your insulin levels not to drop, significantly low so that you actually feel tired. So for example, a good day would look like, having low glycemics in the earlier part of the morning. Okay, you can still have simple carbs like rice and stuff like that, but low glycemics in the morning. Right before your workout, you're going to have your simple carbs, spike that insulin up, spike that sugar up, get that glycogen in there as you're getting pumped up. And then right after your workout, you can still have another simple carb to bounce back up on that insulin. But as the day ends, have your oats again, have your sweet potatoes again, and then make sure that your insulin levels are maintained. They're stable. Okay, so yes, it'll still be a spike with the insulin from the simple carbs, but it will not be a crash because you're factoring in complex carbs. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? That's how you truly manipulate carbs. That's what I do, honestly. I mix high and low glycemic carbs, and I'm depending on what I'm doing, or honestly, most of the time, most of the carbs that I consume are simple carbs, high glycemic, because it does require a lot of glycogen and energy for me to function at my weight with the amount of muscle that I have. But I still do factor in low glycemic carbs a lot, and it's not even like I have simple carbs a lot more. It's only like 60-40 in favor of simple carbs. But I'll, again, focus into complex carbs, low glycemic carbs, to make sure that my levels for insulin don't crash, and that I don't get tired, and that I don't lose energy, and that I maintain the amount of glycogen that is in my muscles so that I can continue to look and feel pumped even after the gym. Does that make sense? Again, guys and girls, it's important to have both. Don't demonize carbohydrates. All right? I eat simple carbs right before the gym so I can, be full of energy immediately and utilize it almost like pre-workout, or we'll say a sugar high. right? Because carbs are sugars, essentially, right? But I make sure I don't crash because I eat complex carbs as well throughout my day to keep my insulin and energy levels balanced. Is that clear? And as promised, at the beginning of this episode, I did say I was going to give you a tip for if you're bloating. All right. It's not carbs' fault. Carbs are not the reason why you're bloating. That's not the reason. The main reason why I would say that you're bloating is either a lack of hydration, or if you're hydrating yourself, you're doing it in a weird way. And I'm not telling you that you're drinking water in the wrong way, but what I'm saying is this: there's a better way to drink water and hydrate yourself, especially if you've been drinking 3 to 4 liters plus every day, which you should be doing. Okay, so this is the tip. If you're bloating around the time that you eat, simply make sure that you drink at least 3 liters of water or more every day. All right, just 3 liters or more. But the rule of thumb is this: drink water 30 to 45 minutes before you eat so you don't bloat. Don't drink the water after. If you eat a couple of meals and you only had 1 liter of water prior to that, and you want to get your last 2 or 3 liters even of water after that, think of food like a sponge. It takes a lot more time for your body to put food down into your intestines than for water to go through your intestines. So drink your water first. It takes less time for that water to pass through. Then once your stomach is empty, not only will you actually have a more of an appetite and feel hungrier after the water is passed, but while the water is there, your appetite will be suppressed. So you won't get cravings or anything like that. And then while the water passes through, once it's done, you hit your water for the day, or at least most of it. Start eating your meals, which is why I recommend drinking water literally right after you brush your teeth. Start drinking water as early as possible so that you don't have that problem where you have to catch up on your water intake after you eat a couple of meals, because that will bloat you. It's not the fact that carbs are bloating you. It's that you've got food and water in your stomach, right? And the food is going to take a lot longer to process than the water. But because your food is being processed, so is the water. It's going to be processed at that time. It's going to take a lot longer for you to pass that bloating and get the food down, and then let the water pass, and then you got to pee, and then all that good shit. Okay? So, rule of thumb, drink water 30 to 45 minutes before you eat so you do not bloat. That's the tip. Got it? All right. That's it. That's all. If you like this episode, share it out with a friend. I hope I was able to deliver a valuable experience to you guys and girls today. Thank you so much for your precious time and attention. Do not forget to screenshot and share this podcast to your IG stories. And my Instagram is at SCHWARZENXGGA. Schwarzenegger, hit your boy up. Let's embrace your inner meathead together, all right? It's been nice chatting. Hope you like what today's topic was about. IFBB PRO, Matt Butale, signing out. Boom. Podcast episode recorded, people. You know what time it is. I'm going to read some of the comments here on TikTok. Then we're going to fly out and hit the gym. Homie says, came in and just heard with carbs. Yeah, we're talking about carbs today. Dylan Connolly says, what foods are best for energy? Something that wakes you up. So simple carbs. Simple carbs, Dylan. Simple carbs. You want to have simple carbs right before you work out. That's literally the best pre-workout snack, which is why, I don't know if you know Regan Grimes. He's Canadian bodybuilder. So I'll give you a couple examples. Regan Grimes, Canadian bodybuilder, quote unquote, muffin pump. Muffins are, high glycemic. They're high in sugar. They're processed usually. And he would eat them before he works out so that, he gets that spike in energy, wakes him up. Same thing with 3-time or 2-time. Was he 3-time or 2-time? 2-time classic physique Mr. Olympia, Breon Ainsley. His thing was pancakes. All right. And pancakes, he would consume that right before he would train. And it would give him a spike of insulin, which, would give him not only that extra energy, but when he would consume it leading up to his show after he was flat, the glycogen, he responds well to the pancakes, because it digests well for him. The glycogen would actually expand his muscle tissue, make it so his muscles just look more full and harder. I don't know how to explain this without speaking like a bodybuilder, but when you eat carbohydrates and glycogen goes into your muscle and you're lean already as a bodybuilder, especially if you're really depleted, and you do a little workout, the pump is unreal. It looks ridiculous. And that's something that Breon Ainsley would do. He would have pancakes to fill himself up, not in his stomach, but in terms of his the muscle bellies, to fill up the muscle bellies, okay, after he's depleted, and then right before he would train or get on stage or something like that, right? So you could utilize carbs for the glycogen pump effect and especially for the energy effect, all right? And then who else? I think even C-Bum does muffin pump, right? But it's the same shit. or if you ever watch his vlogs, he's typically eating like an apple before he goes to the gym. And apples aren't necessarily high glycemic, but they are high in fructose, and fructose is a sugar, and sugar, essentially, if you have sugar before the gym, right, your insulin's going to spike, and it's going to help you a little bit, especially if you are taking pre-workout. Makes sense? Homie says, you look nice today. I appreciate you, homie. Appreciate you. Dylan, thanks for the gifts. Thanks for the free weights, the 3 of them. Appreciate you, bruh. Dylan says, off topic, but there's a Spartan race coming up. It's 10K, 25 obstacle course. I'm just your... Okay, you didn't get to finish the sentence, but that's cool. I appreciate you, and if you're doing that, shout out to you. I hope you fucking ace it. River Pond says, what do you think about working out in a fasted state? Love simple carbs. We'll just get it. We'll just before I hit the gym. Yeah, simple carbs before I hit the gym. Cool. So River Pond. So to answer your question, she says, what do you think about working out or training in a fasted state? I think that it can be beneficial. Like there's no like the studies show that there's no huge difference. But if you struggle, if you're somebody that struggles with appetite and you're growing tissue, like you're a skinny guy, you're trying to put on some size, I'd recommend, doing that for a little while, making sure that you drink your water at least I'd say I'm crazy. I'd go drink 2 to 3 liters of water first thing in the morning before I even eat my first meal. And then I'd make sure that I do my cardio fasted, and just doing my cardio fasted would be enough for me to build up an appetite. Cause I was a skinny kid growing up, and that's like the thing for me. Like I had to basically do something on an empty stomach so I could be hungry for my meals. Because if I just woke up and just decided to eat without even drinking or anything, it just wouldn't sit well with me. I'd wake up, have 2 liters of water immediately, do fasted cardio for 15 to 30 minutes, and then I'd be hungry, sweating a little bit, have another 2 liters of water, hit the shower, and now because the water's passed and because I did a little bit of physical activity, I'm fucking hungry. As a guy who doesn't get hungry, that's what makes my appetite spike, right? So I'd recommend that for fasted cardio. And mainly if you have a treadmill at home, it's a lot more convenient to do fasted cardio if you have a treadmill at home. And I would only recommend that if you have some cardio device at home, because doing it in the gym is kind of a waste of time. It's not a huge difference, but what I've noticed for me is, as I said, it helps me build an appetite before I eat so that I can eat throughout the whole day without feeling like I'm fucking stuffing myself, even if I'm eating 4,000 to 5,000 calories as a bodybuilder. So that's a trick for me. But going into the gym and working out fasted, that's no, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. There's just no good reason to do that. Your glycogen levels are a lot likelier to deplete quicker, which is the pump. Your pump, you'll get flat easier. You lose your veins easier, all that stuff, and it just becomes harder to push. It's always better to train with carbs in your system. Always, 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 always. All right, unless you're some top level competitive athlete and you're training that one workout fasted because you're not allowed to have carbs and you're going to be doing your weigh-ins the next day, that's an exception. But outside of that, there's no good reason why you should be training fasted. I mean, there's no better reason, I'll say. Okay, unless you just prefer it, then you can do that as well. Mainly if you've got fat to lose, fat to burn. Your body's going to utilize the fat stores and the extra glycogen stores. So you training fasted, it won't be that crazy, right? But for me, the only thing I do fasted is cardio because I can get it done pretty much after I drink my water. I've got my treadmill at home. It's super fucking easy for me. It's fast, right? And I'd rather do that then as opposed to around the time that I work out, which they say it's better to do it after your workout, but it's let me get it out the way in the morning and then just go on about my day. I don't want to waste time with it. So that's a great question. I really love that question. Jay says, do you think lifting at a young age could stunt your growth? I think a lot of things could stunt your growth, but no, I know a lot of guys that have been lifting since they were younger than me and younger than I was when I started, and now they're taller than I am, okay, and they're lifting for pretty much longer than I have been lifting. They're not as muscular, but they were lifting when I was they started younger than when I was lifting, and they grew up. It's a myth. River Pond said it. What's good? You okay? What's good? I appreciate you. What gym? Planet Fitness? No, I don't train there. LMAO, nice name. I appreciate you. I appreciate you, fam. You know what time it is. King B, I appreciate the love. I appreciate the love, bro. Salam alaikum, bro. Why is this guy spamming? I don't know, bro. But he's Muslim like us. You're probably Muslim too, so it's okay. So I'm going to read some of the questions here on Instagram real quick. Ooh, we got Caleb in the house. Shout out fucking Caleb, my G. Brutally fucking honest. He says, I want 400 carbs a day. Pump me up, baby. Let's fucking go. He knows what time it is, bro. Get them carbs in you. When you get those carbs in you, glycogen is up, energy is up. You get that juicy pump, and it's just a win, man. Fuck yeah. 400. Yesterday was not yesterday. The day before I was at 700 for a high day for leg day, and then now I'm averaging out at like 400 today. And tomorrow we're gonna be back up at 700 grams. And then by midweek next week we're gonna touch 900. So it's gonna be a fucking high carb day. It's gonna be juicy. Yo, Zach Witt in the house, my boy Natural Nomad. What the fuck is good? I know you're recovering from your surgery. Hope everything's cool. He says, nice insight, bro. Another good pod in the books. Fuck yeah. I appreciate you for tuning in every day. He says, question. Are all rices equivalent in carbs? Like I see basmati rice, but is it better or worse than white rice or jasmine rice? So again, white rice, whether it's jasmine, sushi rice, basmati rice, they're all pretty much the same. The only difference is just a slight difference in the amount of carbohydrates you're getting per X amount of grams, which is a very, very small number. So it's not that one is better or worse. You'll have different rices that have, we'll say, more concentrated carbohydrate amounts per serving, but it's such a small discrepancy because all rice is rice. For example, if you want to eat rice and have more volume, which is like what I gave you, you can have basmati rice because 250 grams of basmati rice, since it's like super thin, it looks fluffy. It looks like it's a little bit more, as opposed to like denser, smaller grains, right? Like a parboiled rice, for example, which 250 grams is still 250 grams, but it just appears smaller. So it's like a visual thing, right? But all in all, the discrepancy between the amount of carbs you're getting per type or per grain of rice, that is white rice, not brown rice, is pretty much relative. It's the same. I appreciate that question. That's a fucking sick question, though, honestly. That's a sick question, Zach. Misper says, best way to become a personal trainer and get personal trainer and start getting clients without being certified. Just do it. Just do it. There's no best way. It's just the way to do it is to go to the gym, look like you fucking know what you're talking about, practice what you preach, actually have the knowledge, and people will actually start coming up to you. You don't even have to tell people. If you start reaching out to people, say, hey, do you need personal training? They could take that as an offense. That's happened to some people that I know. But for me, it's always been, Matt, you look so fucking great. What do you eat? Right? So once you make yourself that like model, fucking that person that, you know, you're consistent with your nutrition, you're consistent with your training, and your body's responding and you look the part, people will come to you. You don't have to think about it. And then you can get certified later if you even fucking want to. You really don't have to if you know what you're talking about and you can actually change people's fucking life. Zach says, I'm not dying, bro. The nerve blocker wore off and now it's pain and misery. Fuck! Oh, he says, I am dying. Fuck! Free the guys. Free Zach. Free Zach, bro. You got this shit, bro. You got this shit. What did they give you, like Tylenol? Fucking hell. That's crazy. That's mad. Who said I'm Muslim? This guy's spamming. Why would you assume that? If you're not Muslim, you're not Muslim. Then that's whatever. That's my bad, bro. But it's your name, bro. It's your name. Again, don't get offended. If you're offended, then I don't know what to say to you. But if you're not, then still know what to say to you. You know, we're just here. It's just the internet, bro. Don't take it too seriously. Let's see here. She says, nice physique, bro. I appreciate you, fam. For us, I appreciate you, bro. I appreciate you, bro. Yeah, yo, that is it. That is all, people. I'm going to fly the fuck out. I'm going to go hit the gym now. I'm going to do what I do best. Get a sick fucking pump, mog the entire gym.